Wir kommen jetzt zu dem von Ihnen eben schon angesprochenen Brad Smith. Brad Smith ist Microsoft-Präsident, er ist Rechtsanwalt und er gilt als Mann der Kompromisse. Da gibt es eine schöne Anekdote, die ich kurz gern erzählen möchte. Als er sich um die Jahrtausendwende beworben hat, um die Rolle des Chefjustiziars bei Microsoft, hat er das mit einer Bewerbung gemacht, die es so nicht häufig gibt. Es war eine einzige Folie, es war ein einziger Satz und dieser Satz war "Time to make peace". Damit hat er den Job bekommen. Das ist eine sehr schöne Geschichte und wir freuen uns, dass Brad Smith, dem die New York Times attestiert, der de facto Botschafter der amerikanischen Tech-Branche zu sein, uns etwas zum Thema Plattformen erzählt.
Hello, I'm Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, and I'm delighted to be with you. It's always an honor to follow Matthias, and I especially appreciate the opportunity to be part of such an important conversation at such an important organization, what all of you do at BDZV. I want to spend a couple of moments to reflect on the problem we need to solve and offer a couple of perspectives on potential paths forward. But I think any conversation about journalism should always start by remembering the critical role that journalists play in our societies. For me, it was captured perhaps better than anyone else by a man named Alexis de Tocqueville, a man from France who visited my country, the United States, when it was a young nation in 1835. He traveled from town to town, and what he observed firsthand was the role of local newspapers. And he talked about the role they played in democracy. And what he concluded with was this: the statement that to say that journalists only serve to protect freedom is to underestimate their importance. They maintain civilization. That's what journalists did then. That is what you do today. But when we look around the world, we see that, frankly, our need for quality journalism is more pronounced than ever. I think one would be hard-pressed to find any time in history when we've been besieged by misinformation and disinformation, problems that I think can only be countered in part through high-quality, independent, professional, objective journalism. But of course, we have another problem, and it's the problem that all of you see and that we see literally around the world. Journalism is under threat, and it's not just from the power and pressures for things like censorship and other aspects of authoritarianism. It's also an economic challenge. It's an economic challenge that has been wrought by technology. And for somebody in the tech sector like me, every day I appreciate that the tech sector creates new tools that can spread information and help journalists do their job. But at the same time, technology has been enormously disruptive, and in one particular negative way. It's moved revenue from advertising that went to journalistic publishers and instead captured that revenue in the pockets of companies that manage the digital advertising ecosystem. Now, in every market, you always have this question: where does money flow? Does it flow to the people who are creating the goods, or does it flow to the people who are distributing them? I think seldom have we seen the phenomenon we're witnessing today. So much of the money being captured in the middle by the digital intermediaries that are in effect distributing content and keeping it out of the hands of the people that are producing it in the first place. That is the fundamental problem that I think we need to solve. It won't be a panacea. We need innovation in all kinds of ways. But if we don't ensure that more revenue flows back to publishers, then I think we're constantly going to be trying to climb up a very steep hill. Now, the good news is that in recent years, thanks to many of you, awareness of this problem has grown. New measures are emerging, and it started in Germany, it started in France and across Europe, but it is sweeping the world. I personally Had the opportunity to work on this in Australia as the year began, and we're focused on it across Europe, in Canada, in the United States, and elsewhere. I think we're going to need a number of steps to move forward. I think it's going to require innovation and new types of partnerships. I think it's going to require new steps by technology companies, something that we're focused on doing with Microsoft, even as we bring the next generation of a product like Windows to the market. But I also think it's going to require new laws that have been given birth in Germany and in France, ideas that are increasingly sweeping the world, ideas that I've had the opportunity to work on earlier this year in Australia and in the United States, Canada, and more broadly. I think we're going to need to give publishers the ability to bargain collectively. And I think most importantly, we're going to need to ensure that that collective bargaining yields a fair return to the people who are producing the news. We haven't solved this problem yet. I think many of you have led the way. I think we're all going to have to lean in, and I think for those of us in the tech sector, it really requires that we step back and reflect on the fact that the work that you do is not only important to the work that we do. After all, if people can't find quality news, then a lot of the attraction of our platforms dissipates in the first place. But I actually think it's far bigger and more important than that. It requires a recognition that what you do is serve a value that is timeless. I hope that Microsoft and technology will be thriving a century from now. But frankly, I think it's even more important that journalism and what you do is thriving a century from now. So my request is keep pushing us, and my commitment is that we'll keep listening and working with you. We all need to work on this together. Thank you.